The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. We've got so much news to get to, so many things to break down. We've got a little bit of Pro Bowl, and of course, we've got Super Sunday coming this week. Some of the interviews taking place today on Media Monday. So, got a lot to talk about Super Bowl-wise, and we'll also talk about some of the top news today, a lot of coaching hirings. But first, let's introduce our guest for the night. Joining us from the 615 podcast. Always a great pleasure to have new guests on the show. Welcome, Lee, from the 615. Lee, thank you for joining us on the Power Hour.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I know we were talking a little bit earlier before the show started, and for our guests, I mean, starting out with the Pro Bowl, it really just hasn't been as exciting, especially in the last couple of decades. So, going forward, you really have to think, could there be a format change down the road somewhere?
I would think so. This year, of course, you saw they added the spot and choose method, where you didn't have a kickoff. Whoever won the coin toss got to choose offense or defense, and the defense got to pick where the offense started. And then after you score, you got the chance to convert a 4th and 15.
And it's a good start there. It definitely sets the tone for a little more excitement. But from a longer standpoint, I think one of the things is, especially watching this game, it generally just exhibited what would look like a scrimmage. And for those of you who don't know what a scrimmage is, it's basically just a football game kind of at half speed, I guess would be the best way to put it. And really, you could tell, especially on social media, the fans really weren't having it. So, Lee, just from your perspective, from the highlights that you've seen, I mean, do you think that it's just something that the players just didn't want to go full speed with and end up getting hurt? Or
I think that's part of what it was, but I think it was more safety. More of a safety aspect for those players that didn't get a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year.
And it's understandable. I mean, it's really not a game worth value, and we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that, especially once we break the Pro Bowl down. But just a few general thoughts there, just to break some of the tension down. But we've got so much top news to get to, so let's take no time in wasting it. Let's jump into the little screen and hit the top news of the day. A lot of coaching hirings, and let's start with our first one. And this is breaking. Dennis Allen, of course, now will be known as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And Lee, it was really just probably one of the worst-kept secrets in the Saints' inner circle. So, are there any surprises here, or did you think that Eric Bieniemy was going to be a little bit more favored, especially with a longer interview?
I think, of course, Dennis Allen getting the head coaching job to me was more of a surprise because, as you were saying, Eric Bieniemy had, I think it was like an 8-hour interview yesterday. And then turn around and hand the job off to Dennis Allen, who was the defensive coordinator, who Dennis Allen also had the interim tag when Sean Payton got suspended.
And like you said, he's been with the New Orleans Saints since 2015, so he definitely has experience. It's a comfort thing, especially with the players. But of course, you look at his record, and one problem there, and it's a very glaring problem: 8-28 all time as a head coach in his one stint with the then Oakland Raiders. So, what do you think they saw in Dennis Allen to basically just hand him the keys over to this franchise?
And I don't really know what they saw. Is you were saying his head coaching record is 8-28, and the biggest part of that was when he was with the Raiders.
Like you said, Eric Bieniemy went in and for about literally an 8-hour interview, and you had to think that, with compliance with the Rooney Rule, that they had to put the interview out there. But still, he was more than just any interviewer. I mean, this is a man that's been trying his hardest to basically land one of these head coaching gigs, and yet continuously falls short for whatever reason. Do you think it's an interviewing problem? Do you think Bieniemy's just not ready to be a head coach, or do you think it's something else?
In my opinion, I'm very certain that he's ready to be a head coach. He's, as I said, as we've said, he's sat under Andy Reid for like the last, I think, 3 or 4 years in Kansas City. Worked with one of the best young quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes. So, in my mind, Bieniemy is ready for a head coaching job.
And of course, Matt Nagy and Doug Peterson were also under the Andy Reid tree and eventually ended up getting head coaching jobs. In fact, Peterson officially last week was named head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe it was on Wednesday.
Yes.
So getting a second chance there, you'd have to think Bieniemy would eventually find the right job. And hopefully going forward that is. But once again, Dennis Allen will be the head coach of the Saints this upcoming season. And of course, we've got a lot of coaching news, and we're going to break them down right now. And of course, today, making it official with the Houston Texans, Lovie Smith, who was the former coach of the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a short stint, is now the head coach of the Texans. So, Lee, what do you think of this hire?
Well, also this, I think, competing against him was former NFL quarterback Josh McCown, and Lovie Smith knows his team very well. Was the defensive coordinator last year. He has head coaching experience, coaching in Tampa Bay, coaching in Chicago, and not only in the NFL, but he also has college head coaching experience. He's the former head coach of the University of Illinois football program.
And you have to add Super Bowl experience as well.
Yeah.
But I really felt that this was a good hire for the Texans. I think you have a lot of people that are kind of on the fence about it, and that's understandable. Lovie Smith's record itself is just about average as a head coach.
When it comes to being a head coach, yes, he knows what he's doing, but he can be sketchy at times.
And of course, especially, he has the capability of building a very strong defense. We've seen that with Chicago. His biggest problem has always been finding the right quarterback. Does Houston have the right quarterback right now, or is that something that they'll have to work on going forward?
Well, it depends on which one of the three quarterbacks that are there. You have Deshaun Watson, you have Davis Mills, who finished the season, but you also have Tyrod Taylor, and it depends on which hand he's going to go with. Is he going to want to keep Deshaun Watson around, or is he going to want to roll with Davis Mills? And so my answer is, I don't know.
And Mills definitely being the second best quarterback in the draft this year, right behind Mac Jones. So there's a lot of potential with Mills, and I think it's a good place for Lovie to start. I would just definitely put a decent offensive line around him going forward in the draft, and I'm sure they'll try and piece together a draft that'll get the Houston Texans in a position to make them more competitive. But Lovie Smith will be the Texans head coach. And also yesterday, more head coaching news. It appears the Dolphins have found their man in Mike McDaniel, the offensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. And Lee, was this a surprising move here?
He's, of course, yes, it could be a surprise. One, he's coming from the West Coast. He's worked with Jimmy G. He has a really good plan, or offensively. I feel like coming over from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree.
And it's a very strong coaching tree, especially with Sean McVay and Zach Taylor, and it just continues to grow with brand new limbs on it. Mike McDaniel being the newest one, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I think the biggest question right now is what do the Dolphins have to work with right now that Mike McDaniel can take advantage of, especially somebody that has such a strong background with building a strong running game?
Well, they have Miles Gaskin in the backfield. Probably, I would probably put him probably top 15 on in their running back category. He can show flashes at times, but he he's inconsistent. Going to the quarterback, you have Tua Tagovailoa. Probably he was one of the best young quarterbacks coming out, right there with Jalen Hurts, who's in Philadelphia. Will they roll with Tua or will they go back to Jacoby Brissett? That's the question.
And a very big question at that, especially knowing that a lot of people don't think that Tua is going to be a long term answer. And especially a lot of critics saying that this year's quarterback draft class might be one of the worst, probably in the last few years. But he does have a very good defense that he will be inheriting. So do you think that's a good standing point for him to get this team going with?
Defensively, that is a good question. Like you have Elandon Roberts, probably one of the best inside linebackers that Miami has. And then he has Jalen Phillips, the rookie out of Miami, which he just finished his rookie year. He'll be going into year two. Uh, I would say, yeah, that'd be a good place to start. Is focus on that defense and build that defense up, and then work through the draft on building that offense up.
And that'll be very interesting to see how McDaniel will keep this Dolphins team going. Hopefully, they can get on the right track and find the right players that they need moving forward. Also, in breaking news today, it also appears that Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals might be going through a tiff right now. Apparently, Murray has officially unfollowed the Arizona Cardinals on all his social media handles and even canceled prior events. So, Lee, does this look like that this is the start of Murray that is trying to basically get a contract extension in a year where he's going to be coming off of his last year of his rookie deal?
I think, and I've looked at Kyler very closely, and and of course you probably know this Power Hour that I'd put this out there on Twitter, and this was to a response from Tic Tac Titans asking, "Would you rather have Kyler or Tannehill?" And I literally came out and said, "Kyler isn't a loyal player. He started off his college career at A&M, then he jumped ship to Oklahoma, drafted by Arizona, then he unfollowed Arizona on all his socials, and pretty much deletes everything off his Instagram. So I think he's wanting out of Arizona, probably."
So you don't think it's a power play for him to possibly get an extension or a full-time deal with the Arizona Cardinals?
I don't think so. And to be honest, I think he's wanting out of there. I don't know why he would want out of there. He has weapons around him. He has Rondell Moore, which Arizona just drafted. And you have DeAndre Hopkins. You have A.J. Green. You have weapons in that receiving core. And then you have James Conner behind you, along with Chase Edmonds.
And like you said, just a slew of just weapons around him, and it would just be hard for him to go anywhere else with that much talent. So, just for the fun of it, where do you think he would fit best, if not Arizona?
Oh, that is a good question. There are a few teams that need quarterbacks. Probably New Orleans, maybe Pittsburgh, with Ben retiring, and then of course the quarterback room in New Orleans is very uncertain. Jameis is going to be a free agent this year. You have the rookie coming out. Um, in Ian Book, you have Taysom Hill, and so it's questionable. Or will he stay in NFC West and go to San Francisco?
That would be something, especially going to a rival team, and the NFC West already being probably, in some opinions, the better division in the NFL. So it's worth noting, but at the same time, it's basically just what we're seeing right now. There's nothing official, there's nothing we can go off of, but just what he's done action wise. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens and move forward on that. And finally, in our finally little tidbits of news, and Titans fans have to be very happy about this, hiring Tim Kelly from the Houston Texans to be their special offensive assistant and passing game coordinator. So, Lee, let me ask you, do you think that this move will help or hinder the Titans' offense?
Well, I've looked at some stuff from when he was in Houston. They had a lot of explosive plays. If you go back and look at that week 18 matchup, they had some big explosive plays in that second half, and he was a big piece of it. So do I think it would help in getting us more explosive plays? I think so. But the downside is one thing I've realized from his time in Houston, they pulled back the reins on play action, and that's where the Titans make their bread and butter at, is in the play action game.
So, what, in your opinion, do you think that Kelly would have to do in order to try and get this offense to the next level?
The big piece is, could we get somebody to sit behind Ryan? Probably. Tim Kelly, he is a good coach. He knows Vrabel all too well. But pairing him with somebody like a Todd Downing, could there be some headbutting right there? Probably.
But you also have to take into consideration the same aspect was put in play with the defense with Jim Schwartz and with Shane Bowen, and apparently that was successful enough for the Titans to try and make this move. Also, note of interest, Mike Vrabel was trying his best last year to go after Tim Kelly, but unfortunately the Houston Texans blocked the move. So that really kind of sells a narrative there that Houston wanted to keep him at that point.
Yeah. That I feel like he probably would have been a better offense coordinator than Todd Downing, because I've said this, a bunch of other Titans YouTubers and podcasters have said this. Todd Downing was extremely predictable. If you go back and look at that Cincinnati game, 4th-and-1, when you see Derek out there and you know 4th and short, 3rd and short is a running down, you know, hey, Derek's getting the ball. And so, could this shake up that play calling a little bit? Probably. I'd like to see it be more unpredictable, is the word.
And I think the biggest question is right now, what should Titans fans expect the Tim Kelly and Todd Downing run offense should look like?
I feel like it'll probably be a mix of what it was last year from the Todd Downing standpoint, but also add in a mix of what Tim Kelly did in Houston. Their offense, I feel like, was sort of like the Titans' offense, just a little bit. I feel like it will be more of a balanced offense. With Todd Downing, he ran the ball, but I feel like he strayed away from that and tried to make us more of a passing team. And of course, losing Derek, I feel like we somewhat transitioned to a passing team.
And of course, missing a lot of our key weapons on offense was a big hindrance, especially on the wide receiver position. So Tim Kelly's got his work cut out for him coming into this offense. knowing that there's some key pieces here that'll be contributors, and especially with free agency and the draft, we'll have to see what happens going forward with this team. But I do like this direction. I like Tim Kelly as a whole and as a person. I think you can't really look too much at the stats, especially at Houston where he had some bad years, because you're only doing yourself a disservice. Because one year they didn't have Deshaun Hopkins, so there you go. That's a big missing piece there. And a lot of the defensive players in the same year were injured.
Yeah, that is true.
So Tennessee stealing away Tim Kelly once Houston's decided to move on from him. Their loss is our gain. And we'll just see how it goes going forward.
That's about all we can do is look towards 2022-23 season.
Here's hoping for the best. Tim Kelly, welcome to the Tennessee Titans. All right, guys, we got through our top news today. Let's take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Pro Bowl, what we liked, what we didn't like, what they can do to improve, if they can improve it. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. I want to thank our guest, Lee from the 615, for joining us on the show. Lee, it is great having you here, and I would love for you to give a moment and shout out to the fans where to find you on your platforms.
So, of course, Twitter, y'all can find me at podcast615. Instagram, you can find me at the_615 podcast. You can find me on Spotify at you can look for either the 615 or you can look up Lee Hillis on Spotify.
Check Lee out. He's got some really good insight, great stuff, great videos, and of course his TikToks are hilarious. Can't miss on them. Check the man out. You won't regret it. And since we're giving shout-outs, I'll throw mine out. If you love the show, help it grow. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. Follow, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more content. Remember, we grow because you care. All right, Lee, what do you say we jump into this Pro Bowl? I mean, we don't have to, but somebody's got to break it down on Monday, so it might as well be us.
There's not a lot to talk about when it comes to Pro Bowl.
We'll try our best, so let's throw it up on there. And it was a pretty close Pro Bowl, and that's saying a lot, but it really didn't get that close till about the end. 41-35 with an AFC win, and of course that being the fifth consecutive win the AFC has won with the Pro Bowl. So, Lee, I guess that's the best place to start right there. Of course, you can't take too much into consideration with the coaching because it was probably just very lax and chill. But at the same time, I did like how Vrabel handled himself this week, even after just so much disappointment the last couple of weeks. And really just a good way to just kind of blow some steam off and just kind of get out there and just enjoy the game for a little bit. So, what was your take on just Vrabel's way that he just approached the Pro Bowl?
Well, as you were saying, it was probably really laid back, relaxed. But if you go back and listen to some of the sound bites from the Pro Bowl or the practices, he sounded like he was more intense. With a mix of just being laid back, relaxed. It's like, hey, we're here in Vegas. Let's chill. Let's chill and have fun. You're muted.
Sorry about that. It was a really good test to see just this offensive and defensive coaching staff go down there and work with some of the best in the biz right now. So, from a lot of the highlights, what were your takeaways from that?
Well, if looking at players that were there, Justin Herbert looked really good in this system. And I feel like if this is really what the Titans are systematically, I feel like we need more of a quarterback like a Justin Herbert. And also, Mac Jones did not look bad. He was 12 of 16 for 112. Uh, Justin Herbert was 7 for 11 for 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And both of his interceptions were to Mark Andrews from Baltimore.
And funny enough, you bringing up Mark Andrews because it seems there was a huge debate, especially with the MVP award, where unfortunately Justin Herbert won it. But a lot of fans were very, very upset about that, knowing that Andrews had the better game in their mind. So, from that, I mean, did you feel that the MVP award on offense was justified, or did Andrews have a stronger case?
I feel like it could have been like a co offensive MVP because if you look at it, Mark Andrews 5 catches, 82 yards, and the 2 touchdowns from Justin Herbert.
And, of course, a great point. And both Herbert and Mac Jones both look good, but Herbert definitely having some of the better passes in the Pro Bowl. You just kind of get the feeling that Herbert's going to be just a diamond in the rough. I like what I see with him, and at the same time, there's a lot he can improve on, but, for someone that's still 2 years in the league, it's just very impressive how he's handled himself.
Exactly. And of course, everybody saw, hey, Patrick Mahomes struggled mightily. He completed 50% of his passes, 5 for 10 for 53 yards and interception. Yeah, taking it. It is the Pro Bowl. It's not a regular season game.
But that's an interesting point you bring up, especially with Mahomes. It seems just the last few times that he's played, he's struggled heavily. And it's hard to say if it's just a mental problem or if it's an injury issue. I mean, what would your take be on that? What do you think's wrong with Patrick Mahomes, if you think that anything's wrong with him?
I think it's probably more a mental aspect of this game, knowing, hey, this game, you just played 17, 18, 19 weeks. And mentally you're burned.
And the crazy situation Mahomes keeps finding himself in, when you look back at the AFC Championship, he really didn't start struggling until the second half. And it was really just a slow dwindle, almost like seeing a spool of yarn just kind of unfurl between, right in front of your eyes. I guess the best way to describe it. Do you think it's something that Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy are going to have to sit down with him and probably try and correct during the offseason?
Probably. I don't, as we were saying, we really don't know what the situation is. Is it mental? Is it injury? It's something that's going to be figured out by either the training staff or, as you were saying, Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy.
And it's just unfortunate to see a player of his caliber just struggle with something like this. But then again, you have had people come out that were looking him in the draft and said there were situations that he would get in games and he would just get in a bad spot and he'd end up just making a lot of mistakes. So it's hard. Sorry, go ahead.
And of course, Titans fans can probably connect that to a Ryan Tannehill situation. Like, you get in a big situation, and I don't want to say choke, but that's somewhat what has happened.
And of course, it's understandable especially with some of the situations that he's been in. But I mean, you go back to that divisional game, and I know we're trailing off a little bit, but I just figured it's a good point to make. I think just with Tannehill's situation, you have to take Todd Downing into consideration a lot more. You see what he did with Arthur Smith. You see what he did with Matt LaFleur. I don't think it's Tannehill himself. I think it's the systems that he keeps getting moved in and moved out of. And if you're not having consistency, it's really hurting you long term. But I'll let you take a point.
And as we were saying, he didn't struggle with Arthur Smith. I was laying in bed looking at some of Ryan's stuff from 2020, 2021, and his touchdown to interception ratio dropped off big time between his time with Arthur Smith and now Todd Downing.
And it's a lot to take in, especially Downing was the offensive coordinator at the point with the Oakland Raiders, and you saw, stats just plummet there as well, especially with an offense that had Derek Carr and Amari Cooper at that time.
And the big thing is, I don't think most people realize this, he was fired after one season with the Raiders.
But then again, you do have to take in consideration that Jack Del Rio was fired as well. So
yes.
It was kind of hard really to just pin that on the one thing. But it was very noticeable. But I digress. We were getting ahead of ourselves. And I know Titans fans are loving talking about these situations. But we'll jump back into this Pro Bowl stuff and try and knock that out. Because, like I said, somebody's got to talk about it. But on the defensive side, Max Crosby was a nice story. 5 tackles, 2 sacks, I think 3 batted passes, and was the defensive MVP. I really liked what I saw from him. I think he's going to be a really nice player for Las Vegas going forward.
And, you have to applaud Max Crosby. You have to. He looked incredible. And the stats don't lie. 5 tackles, 2 sacks, I think it's like 3 batted passes. And he deserves to be MVP. And he almost had an interception to think about.
And that is true. And really, when I watch him play, and in some of the film that I've seen him in, he's got the makings of a J.J. Watt. Much smaller J.J. Watt, but he's got the physical tools.
And to be honest, he's the kind of guy I would like to see on our defensive line with a big Jeff.
If you definitely add him to a stronger defensive line, especially one of ours, that would make a lot of trouble, especially for opposing offenses. But the Raiders have a really nice player there, and it's a nice story to see him win, especially in being a home game basically for him. So,
and the same thing with Hunter Renfrow.
That's right. So, Raiders definitely getting a lot of love in here tonight, but got to throw out my W's. But, of course, the next biggest question is, and of course it's the biggest question from everybody's mind, from social media and onward, this was basically a glorified scrimmage. And every year it seems the Pro Bowl continues to find ways to be even more boring than the next one. So, Lee, I guess it's a loaded question, but what can the Pro Bowl do to try and gain some more interest?
For me, one thing that I feel like that should come back is make it more of like a real game. Have it to where you can be tackled instead of just be like right where you're touched, you're down. Bring back that where you can have full contact instead of making it like as you're saying, a scrimmage or a walkthrough.
And I don't mind the players, not taking it completely serious because, there's really nothing of value on the line except a trophy. But I just feel that you want something more. And, with regular NFL season games, there's always something on the line. There's always rivalries. There's always the best against the best some weeks. And even on this stage where you literally have the hand-picked best of the best, it just doesn't sell.
The 88 best players in the league.
And you really just try and look and see what they did right in past Pro Bowls, and if they could start implementing that into some of these games now. I mean, do you think that could be a possibility to help drive ratings up on this? Because I already see the ratings aren't going to be tremendously great.
I think something like that could help to drive ratings up. I feel like, as I was saying, bring some more contact back into it.
And you already get the feeling that the Super Bowl is going to overtake whatever the Pro Bowl tries to do, and there's nothing they can do about that. That's going to be the end-all, be-all of the NFL. But I just get the feeling, the NFL could take some lessons from some of the other All-Star games. I mean, like the NBA and the MLB. You could have skills contests. I wish they'd bring some of those back. That'd make it just a little more entertaining. Not everything has to be about the game.
And one thing that of course, talking about the Pro Bowl, what about Stephon Diggs playing defense against his little brother Trayvon?
I'd watch that. I don't think anybody in here wouldn't want to watch that.
Which that happened this weekend.
I mean, I'd like to see, one of the 320-pound linemen actually make a field goal. That'd be interesting to me.
That would be interesting.
I mean, like Vince Wilfork used to do like a practice when he was with the Patriots or with the Texans.
Yeah.
I mean, give me that. That's great entertainment right there. But realistically, and like I said, it's a loaded question. And Lou Man 07 brings up a good pass. And really, it's really just kind of what the Pro Bowl is right now. It's just punt, pass, kick stuff for adults. So it's really just the punt, pass, and kick. That's what it is for adults.
Exactly.
But, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the Pro Bowl also feels like a backyard football type feel.
I mean, it's a very nicely dress rehearsal. It's a nice dress rehearsal backyard football game. But, I don't want to see it go away, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, as long as it makes money, and it does, the NFL's going to keep doing it. I just wish they'd just implement more things, make it a little more fun. You could even just stop the game entirely and just do like something crazy just to get the fans' just attention. It's worth trying. I mean, it's not. Go ahead.
Like what you're mentioning, like how the NBA does, or and like the NHL does, like the skills competitions, which the NFL does that.
True, but it's not as highlighted as it was back then. Back then, they made a big deal about it, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, but nowadays, not so much.
When you had quarterbacks like a Dan Marino and a Tom Brady and like a Peyton Manning.
I mean, retro's coming back, and it couldn't hurt the NFL to try and pull on their roots a little bit and try some of the old stuff. It worked. It had people's attention. Just because, it's kind of outdated doesn't mean that people won't want to watch it. Sometimes old school's the best.
Yeah, I agree. Let's try some the older stuff, not all of it, but intertwine some of the older stuff and the newer stuff.
And I mean, especially in the modern age of just electronics and everybody having social media right at their fingertips, that just makes it even better. I mean, I wouldn't even be upset if they let the players carry their phones and tweet during the games and on the sideline more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with that. It's not a game that matters.
Yeah, it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be laid back.
So the NFL just needs to take the lesson to heart and just put a little bit of fun back in the no fun league. Exactly. Will they do it? Will they do it though?
I don't think so. knowing Roger Goodell, he probably wouldn't.
which is unfortunate, but you never know. I mean, we'll see as we go. Like we say on the show all the time, we'll see what happens. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, I have a special report to give to you, and it's involving the Super Bowl, but not in the way you think. And it's hopefully going to be something that'll open your mind and your eyes a little bit of what's been going on the last couple of weeks for Super Bowl preparation. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour, and we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Tired of not being able to find the Power Hour on YouTube? Getting frustrated? There's got to be a better way. Well, now there is. Hey Alexa, find the Power Hour Tennessee Titans. All right, it's that simple. So sit back, relax, and watch every old episode, and new ones drop every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, subscribe, like, and ring the bell for more content.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us once again on this Monday evening. It is Super Bowl week. We are getting ready to get everybody prepared for this big matchup against the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. Joining me tonight, Lee from the 615 podcast. Lee, once again, thank you for being on here tonight. We're having a blast with you, and we've got so much more to cover, and I'm just glad you're here to help us out with this Super Sunday week.
It's gonna be a fun weekend.
That definitely, and of course, so much more, especially as Media Monday is hit off. It'll be a little smaller, especially with the COVID restrictions. We definitely want to keep everybody safe, so I know I've got to watch a few of the interviews, especially with Joe Burrow. Have you got to watch any of those?
I have not. I was looking, and I think you have like Matthew Stafford on, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald were the three that I saw that were on that I wasn't going to watch. I'm like, but I've got to get. I was getting ready to hop on here, so.
Well, no argument here. You made the right choice, so you can watch it after you're done. But
yeah,
you made the right choice. You came here you came straight here, so you made the right choice. Well, all right, guys. On my next segment, and this one's basically just to give you some perspective of what's been going on, just so the Super Bowl can be prepared for the city of Inglewood. And I'm going to start with this. It's the not-so-sunny side of California. And the way I say that right now is there's been a lot of cleaning up and removing of the homeless, especially in areas in Inglewood and right around the main areas and the main roads towards the stadium. So here's my report on that. And of course, I want to thank my source for this, especially to make this possible. This is Mike, and his channel is German in Venice. And if you haven't seen it, he's really great. One of the cool things he does, he takes you around all over basically Southern California. You get to see some pretty amazing things too. Mike's very adamant and very passionate about being in California, and rightfully so. It's a beautiful place and a lot to do. Some of the things you see right now, the sign of Inglewood was painted by a friend of his, and it was basically made especially for the Super Bowl, so shout out to his buddy who made that, and he shutted it out with pride. And one of the other things in Inglewood that most people don't know is the home of Randy's Donuts, one of the famous donut shops, and if you've seen Iron Man, you've seen him sit right inside the donut, so apparently for the Super Bowl, they've decided to smack a Pepsi logo in there and paint it black. But, money, as Mike would say. And I definitely want to make sure you get a chance to check out Mike's channel after this. There's a lot of great features on there. He does a lot of funny stuff. He does a lot of serious stuff. And this is just really me giving a shout out to him because he basically opened my eyes to especially what's going on right now in preparation to the Super Bowl. And in order for them to get ready, they've basically been cleaning house. And when I say house, everyone else's. So anyone that's homeless right now, California has basically been giving them 72-hour notices to basically vacate the area and basically let them know that they're going to be throwing away stuff. So if they plan on leaving it there, it's going to be gone. And that being the case, this is what Mike's showing us. This is basically people's property that's been bundled up and thrown over into a corner just to be distributed and thrown away later on. And Mike also says that the main street on Licentia Boulevard, it's one of the heaviest areas that's being focused on. And it's basically one of the main roads that will go straight right through from LAX straight to the stadium. So that, and right around the main areas of Hollywood Boulevard and Rodeo, they're trying to clean up. And this is what you see. This is what you've been seeing if you were in that area. You see tents, you see homeless people out there in makeshift houses right along the interstate. Most of the time you'll see them running across just to get to their place of living. And you see this all over the place. And Los Angeles has basically been telling these people that they have approximately a 72-hour wait to get all their belongings and to leave the premises. If not, they're going to take the stuff and just chuck it. Now, some of these people, they're able to get hotel vouchers throughout various programs, but that's just a drop in the bucket. And the problem with that is, the ones that don't, you have some of them that are ending up going to Venice Beach and staying, and then they get shooed off later. But this is everywhere you've seen. These are other areas right in Inglewood that have been cleaned out. One of the rougher ends called the Dead End. Mike went over here, and apparently there's some rough characters there, and he just didn't want to try and go in there, and that's understandable. You know, it's a rough area, and it's a rough neighborhood in some parts, so you got to watch yourself, and you have to protect yourself, and I understand Mike's take on that. But one of the areas also being focused on is the 405 and the northbound, basically. One of the main areas going towards LAX to the stadium. And right there, you're going to see an example of how much cleaning they've been doing. Or I should just say cleaning. All this right here was basically just full of tents and people. This is the end result. This is what they've been doing to try and make sure when the crowds come for Super Bowl Sunday, there's nobody under here. And that's basically what they've been telling people when they give them these notices. They said, the Super Bowl's coming. We've got to move y'all. So it's either here's a voucher for a hotel for a few days, or it's you got to go. And this has been all throughout the Los Angeles area and all through Inglewood. And this is some of the stuff that's sitting there waiting to be thrown away. And up in the corner, it's some of the workers and the work that they've been doing. They have them in hazmat suits. They have them moving things because, you know, you've got a lot of stuff around the area. Especially breathing-wise, it's hard. And as you can see on top of the bridge, you can see where it's a little charred. Now, that's where they've had fires come under there. And you've had some people say that, unfortunately, that where fires come through there, it's a hazard. Now, I don't doubt that, but we all know what the real reason is. And it's already been said to some of these various homeless people. And once again, shout out to Mike, his page, German in Venice. Check that out. Just like I said, funny guy, loves the city, but he shows you the pretty and the ugly sides of it. And here's the video if you want to see it. I want to make sure I give that a shout out. But just giving you just the perspective of what these people are going through right now. And it's unfortunate, especially in these times that we're going through, where you have people that don't have jobs and you have people that are homeless, even more now so. And California is no exception. They've had a very large homeless problem, and it's unfortunate, especially after some of these people have been hit with COVID, and some of them have no other choices. But the key thing is here, you know, we love the game. We love the way everything works out when the Super Bowl comes to town. But these are the ugly parts that you don't get to see. And these are some of the parts that get combed over. And it's unfortunately for some of these people that now they have to continue to move forward and try and find somewhere else to go, if they have anywhere else to go. But I wanted to bring those up, and I wanted people to know that, you know, there is a way you can help with some of these people. And, you know, you can donate to the Salvation Army in the Inglewood area on 324 East Queen Street. It's very much important if you feel obligated to help and you want to help, that, you know, they'll take donations, they'll take food donations, they'll take whatever they can give you. You know, these people need help. And if you feel so inclined, you know, the Salvation Army is always a good place to give. And also, I looked this area up, and this is the St. Mardrick Center for the homeless. They do a lot of great things. They help people find houses. They give sack lunches to the homeless. They have clothing, shelter. They give out diapers and food for families on low income. Just a really nice place and just really great people. There's the address up there if you want to find out more about them. But the Super Bowl is supposed to be fun, but at the same time, it's not fun for everybody. And in situations like this, you have people that are continually trying to make a living and try and make a good time out of a tough time. And for some of them, it's a lot harder than others. So I just urge you, especially going forward, just if you feel compelled in your heart to help, then I encourage that. And I very much, it's heartbreaking to see, but it's something you have to see because in this day and age, especially when we're trying to help other people out, they shouldn't be forgotten. And as much fun as this game is, it's even more rewarding and it's even more thoughtful to look after your fellow man. And I just wanted to bring that up tonight. So, thank you, Lee, for letting me do that. I appreciate you. But, of course, our thoughts and our prayers are out with those other people, so hopefully they can make something out of a bad situation. All right, guys, thank you very much for taking the time to watch that, and we're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, Lee, we got some Super Bowl to talk about. We got a lot of matchups and a lot of good things coming up, so I hope you all hang around just for a moment. We'll take a quick 30-second break, and we'll bring you our Super Bowl takes. I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour, back in 30.
As the new NFL season dawns upon us, Tennessee Titan fans have the ultimate desire, and that desire is to see their team hoist the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season. And through it all, we expect a lot of great highs and maybe even a little lows. But it all comes to one thing, that we all love the two-tone blue. And going forward, fans are looking for something fresh, something new, something exciting. Looking for a show that's going to give you all the stats, highlights, and accolades that you're looking for? Well, it's time to jump into the new revolution. That is the Power Hour.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Thank you for joining us on this Monday evening of Super Bowl week. I want to thank Lee from the 615 podcast for joining us once again. Lee, thank you for being on the show tonight. We got one more segment. You ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
Throwing a little screen up, and here we go. It is Super Bowl Sunday. The Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals matching up February 13th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC and on Peacock. It'll also be the site of probably one of the best Super Bowl halftime shows in the last 15 years, in my opinion. Fight me on that, bro. I dare you. That's right, the Super Bowl Pepsi halftime show with Dr. Dre, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, and Snoop Dogg. It'll be phenomenal. Gotta throw a shout out to that too as well. I think I'm just about as excited for that as the game. So, for me, definitely looking forward to that. But Lee, here we go, breaking into what's going to happen on the Super Bowl. And we'll start with the defense. We'll go with the Rams first. And right now, the Rams defense, they have sacked the quarterback 55 times across from 20 total games played. And with a defense that added Von Miller, could that finally be the missing piece that gets this defense over the edge?
Well, Von Miller, he's reckless in the game. He's I won't say reckless. He's terrifying. I feel like he gives opposing quarterbacks nightmares when they know, oh my, I've got to face Aaron Donald and Von Miller up front. We need protection.
And, of course, you can't also forget the ball hawks styling skills of the talented Jalen Ramsey. So, what's Cincinnati's offense going to have to do in order to try and keep this defense on its toes?
Well, key one for me is protect Joe Burrow. They've had that offensive line has had a problem protecting Joe Burrow. If this offense for Cincinnati has another sack type game that they had against the Titans in the divisional round, LA has this game. Joe Burrow is in what I'm referring to. The Titans defense sacked Joe Burrow 9 times, 9 times. And can you tell me who the last quarterback was before Joe Burrow to be sacked 5+ times and still win a playoff game?
I'll let you answer that one because I can't. I can't think.
It was Donovan McNabb was sacked 7 times in the NFC divisional game when he was in Philadelphia.
Wow, that's definitely a callback.
And speaking of the Rams, they've been to the Super Bowl. This is the second time in a 4-year span.
And you definitely have to you like the tenacity of Stan Kroenke. He's willing to go out and get whatever player he needs in order to make his team successful. And this year has been no exception with the addition of Odell Beckham and with Von Miller. But we'll get to Odell Beckham shortly. But moving on to the Cincinnati defense now. And I think people just didn't expect them to be what they are right now. And this is a very telling tale. Owning a 7-2 turnover margin in their 2021 playoff appearances, I've just been shocked the way that this defense continues to find turnovers. What's their secret?
I've got to say it's their ability to take away passing lanes. And, of course, going back to the divisional round, I know Titans fans, this hurts, but that final play, Titans had that game. They were driving. All they had to do was protect the ball and get in field goal range for the Titans. They threw it into triple coverage to NWI, tipped up, and I think it was number 55, if I stand corrected, that came down with it. So it's being able to pressure the quarterback, force him to get rid of it before he has to, and for teams to be able to put pressure on a quarterback and make him throw, that says something about your defensive front. They're without Larry Ogunjobi, who went on IR before that divisional round game. Really, all they're rushing is Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. Both of their defensive ends are huge threats on the defensive front. And then you have to, on the back end, you have to talk about a guy, Jesse Bates, on the back end, along with Steven Nelson. Steven Nelson was with Pittsburgh last season, came over to Cincinnati, and both him and Jesse Bates have made names for themselves on that back end.
Once again, owning a 7-2 margin, the defense continues to show up and show out, especially getting turnovers against two teams that have been very good at protecting the ball in some cases. Now looking at the Rams' offense, and they've averaged 28 points per game in the NFL playoffs. And teams that generally get up to that point can win a Super Bowl. And, of course, their talented duo of Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. and Matthew Stafford having a full resurrection of his career. What are the Rams going to have to do offensively to try and make the Bengals nervous defensively that the other two teams haven't had success with?
I feel like the big thing is get those explosive plays to Cooper Kupp. That's exactly what the Rams did to Tampa Bay. It came down to, hey, we need a field goal. And they threw it upfield to Cooper Kupp, had him wide open. And he walked in. So I say use Cooper Kupp big time. and then if he's covered, go to OBJ, and then mix the run every now and then.
So if you're Eli Apple, what's the matchup you want with at wide receiver?
If I'm Eli Apple, I want Cooper Kupp.
Do you think
Cooper Kupp is as we were saying, he is the Triple Crown winner. He was first in receptions, first in touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, and he was also first in receiving yards.
But do you think there could be a mismatch where they try and rotate Kupp and they try and rotate OBJ and try and see if they let Apple cover him?
There is a possibility that could happen. But if I'm Eli Apple, I want to stay on Cooper Kupp as much as possible.
Now, of course, on the defensive line, you have to take in consideration Matthew Stafford. If you move him around in the pocket, he's very easy to get off guard. So what's the Cincinnati defensive front going to have to do to make this a game basically where Stafford's going to have to try and fight for every yardage?
Well, defensively up front for Cincinnati, you have to be able to get Trey Hendrickson going, along with Sam Hubbard. And if you can get either one of those guys and force double teams on them, so your guys inside can get to Matt Stafford. And if he's forced to roll out by pressure up the middle, either Trey Hendrickson or Sam Hubbard will have a hand on him.
This Rams offense definitely getting people's attention, cutting through all the defensive mess, and especially 2 4 seeds matching up in the Super Bowl. Keeping that perspective, I think it's been quite a while since we've seen at least 2 low teams actually meet up in a Super Bowl. You'd have to think back at least somewhere between the 80s where 2 teams that low have actually met up and played a Super Bowl together.
Well, of course, I'm looking at the Super Bowl history. Cincinnati's been to the Super Bowl twice. Was in the Super Bowl twice in the 80s. Interesting stat. They lost both of them to the same team.
The 49ers.
At the Silverdome in 1982, lost 26-21 to the Niners. And then 1989 at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, 20-16. So, and LA is a 4.5-point favorite.
And funny enough, they're the away team, actually.
But the funny thing that somebody pointed out is LA will not have to give up their locker room. So Cincinnati will be using the away team's locker room, even though they're the home team.
Which, rightfully so. That just saves the crew a lot of work. So
From
understand
move everything around and yeah.
Understandable. But getting to Cincinnati's offense and averaging 11.2 yards per completion, and their receivers are dangerous.
And
in the easiest word to say.
And speaking of dangerous, that man that's on the screen, Jamar Chase, in my mind, is Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, no doubt.
I'm calling it now. The NFL honors is this week on Thursday night. I'm saying Jamar Chase takes home Offensive Rookie of the Year.
And you have it here, a Power Hour exclusive. Lee from the 615 podcast has thrown his hat in the ring for Jamar Chase for Rookie of the Year. So you heard it here first.
And I'm going to go ahead and say Coach of the Year goes to Mike Vrabel. Has to. Teresa Walker, I think, I'm not sure where I heard this at. All their voting is done week 18. So they don't even take playoffs into the scenario. And think about what the Titans did. They overcame injury. losing Derek halfway through the year. Mike Vrabel, 12-5 this season, dressing 91 players, and still found a way to get the number 1 seed.
And somehow the NFL still find a way to give it to Zach Taylor, though. But, we'll see.
And as I stated, Cincinnati is a 4.5-point underdog. The over-under is 48.5 for those who like to bet.
So there's your bet right there, people. But of course, we have to get to predictions on this because you have to. There's got to be a score. There's got to be a winner. And Lee, you are my guest. And as the guest, I will let you give your prediction on who will be hosting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of this thing.
If you look at the analytics from this game, how can you go against Joe Burrow? So I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals to win their first Super Bowl. I'm going to take them by 3. I will say 23-20 Bengals.
Will you call that an upset?
Safe to say yes, because LA, they're playing in their home state, but they're the visiting team.
All right, and Lee is going to go with the Bengals in an upset to pick their first Lombardi Trophy. And as for me, I don't do predictions till Friday. I have never given out a Super Bowl until Friday. That's just how I roll. So, if you want to know my pick, you'll have to check my platforms out on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. I will announce it February 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Got to keep y'all guessing. That's how I keep you coming back. But Lee definitely gives his support for the Bengals, and I'm leaning on one of the sides of these teams. So
you have to wait till Friday.
You'll have to wait till Friday. I'll put it to you this way: one of the animal teams will win the Super Bowl. And of course, our buddy Lou Man 07 is going to go with the Bungles. I don't think you can call them the Bungles anymore. They're good, and I think they're going to be good for a while. So, I think that's dead and done. But can't blame me for calling it what it is. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been a great show. I want to thank Lee from the 615 Podcast for joining us. Lee, of course, wanted to give you a chance to give another shout out to tell the people where to find you on all your platforms.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at podcast615, on Twitter on Instagram it's at _615 podcast. On Twitter it's at podcast615. On Spotify you can look up the 615, or you can search my name, Lee Hillis, on Spotify. And I do actually have some big things coming up. Be on the lookout for that. And of course, the month of April, around the 615, will be busy. Dropping an episode every day in the month of April.
Oh.
On nothing but draft content.
Lee's going to throw out some draft stuff come April, and he means business, y'all. So make sure you check out his page, like and subscribe his stuff too.
And there will be live streams on Monday and Wednesday through the month of April.
This man's burning the candle at both ends. But hey, you gotta throw it out in April, especially when it gets busy like that. So shout out to you, Lee.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
You're handling business. You ain't messing around. So make sure you check out his. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The first live stream will be April 4th. Not sure what time yet. Be on the lookout for that. And we will be talking tight ends.
Not Titans. Tight ends.
We will be talking the tight end position. who could the Titans go with in the draft? You'll have to wait and find out.
See, that's how you get people hooked, and then they got to wait. So, Lee taking a lesson there. All right, everybody. Want to make sure, check out Lee, check out his content. Great stuff. Check out his old stuff, too. Man knows what he's talking about. And he just threw you a bone. He's going to put out a lot of stuff, so check it out. You ain't gonna regret it. And also, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Once again, don't forget, subscribe on your way out, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. You know you want to. I got the good stuff. You keep coming back. That's how I roll. So once again, thank you again, Lee, for joining us tonight, and thank you all for joining us for the show one more time. So, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. Take care and tighten up.
Thank you for watching The Power Hour. And don't forget to subscribe, and ring the bell for more content. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at The Power Hour 615. Thank you. Have a great night.